Hello, welcome to the Sugar Scoop. I'm cake artist Shelby Bower, and today we're going to be making a gravity-defying sculpted guitar cake. Now this cake is extra special because it's for the lead guitarist of Cryptic Void, Ben. Ben's mom contacted me a few months ago. Shout out to Ben's mom for sponsoring this video. She wanted a guitar-themed cake for Ben's birthday, and because Ben has been my husband's best friend for so long and he was best man at our wedding, we had to make Ben something extra. Now, this cake has a PDF download pattern that's available on our website, www.thesugarscoop.com. It will save you at least a day's worth of work, trust me. It has all the little parts and all the scaling and everything figured out for you. It's only $5. I altered the guitar shape for maximum cakeage. So let's get started. So I cut my pattern out and now I'm placing it on my 1/2 inch wood board, and I'm just going around it with a pencil. I'm going to cut all of this out with my jigsaw. You can use foam core board. I would definitely layer like 3 on top of each other. So here's my mom cutting everything out with the jigsaw. This is a custom cut board. It's 16 inches by 36 inches, and that's to accommodate the neck of the guitar. And I just printed out a bunch of band posters that have to do with the guitarist of the band that I'm making the birthday cake for. So you can definitely print out posters that have to do with, whoever you're making the cake for, or you can use the posters that I included in the PDF. So I'm just covering that board with contact paper, and then I'm marking where this little box is going to be that's going to hold our neck, and just gluing the box together using hot glue, and just make sure it's pushed together really well and it's really tight on there. If you're using my PDF, your box is going to be a little bit shorter than the one that I'm making in this video. I'll explain that later. Now I'm covering the little box in contact paper because part of it is going to touch cake, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue that little box onto the board that holds the cake. Now I'm cutting off that 1/4 inch outside that's on the cake pattern. Now I'm going to take my half sheet cake and I'm going to cut off the top. I want about each layer of the cake to be 3/4 inch. I don't want the cake to be too tall because guitars aren't that thick. They're only about 2.5 inches thick or so. And so this cake is going to end up being about 3 inches tall. Since we cut off that 1/4 inch on the pattern, I'm now cutting on that dotted line. So our cake is going to be 1/4 inch all around, smaller than our cake board. And we do want to cut out that little niche for the box. And I'm just going to cover the cake board with some chocolate buttercream. And this entire cake is vegan, so I will include all of the recipes that I used in the PDF. But if you don't buy the PDF, you can pretty much use any cake that's good for carving. I also used a water ganache and blackberry jam. And then I'm just coating the whole thing with some all-American buttercream. I did make some changes to it to make it vegan. You can stick with just the buttercream, just make sure it's really nice and smooth. What I did is I added a layer of chocolate ganache on top, and this was just to get really sharp edges, and it was a really hot day that day. So that worked really nicely under my fondant. But you definitely don't have to. Buttercream works just fine. So the next thing I'm going to do is coat the back of the neck in a mixture of black food coloring and vodka. And this is just to stain the neck so you don't really see it. It kind of just disappears. And make sure that you paint the sides too. And then we're going to coat the whole thing in fondant mixed with Tylose powder so it dries nice and firm. And make sure to use a little bit of edible glue so that your fondant sticks to the wood really nicely. And then you're going to use a brand new X-Acto blade to cut off the fondant nice and sharp, and then you're going to use a sugar shaper to make some wavy lines, using our X-Acto blade to make a line separating the neck and the head, and then a mixture of food coloring and vodka that resembles like whatever colors your guitar is, but I did kind of like a cherry wood color. So now I'm taking burgundy fondant. This is the darkest fondant that I had, and I'm rolling it out to about 1/8 inch thick, and then a little bit over 3 inches, maybe 3.5 inches tall, and making sure you have at least one really straight side. And I'm going to stick this in the freezer for about 10 minutes. We're going to use this to panel one of the sides of our guitar. So here's our guitar cake covered in a layer of chocolate ganache like I mentioned earlier. And we're going to panel this front part of the guitar real quick. We're using a little bit of vegetable shortening to make sure that the fondant sticks. And then I'm just going to press it in there really nice and get it smooth, and use a clean X-Acto blade to cut the edges really nice and sharp. Now this is going to make the edges look really good of our guitar. I like to panel whenever I want something to have really nice clean lines. And then you're going to take your X-Acto blade and you're going to go really flush with the cake and cut off that excess on the top. You want to make sure that your box is completely covered. Now your box is going to be inset in the cake and not flush with the cake like mine is. Now I'm just cleaning it up, make sure everything's nice and smooth and that it's flush with the board. And now really fast I'm going to panel the rest of the outer layer of the cake, and then I'm just going to coat it with a little bit of shortening on the top, and I'm rolling fondant out a little bit thicker than I normally would for the very top of the guitar, just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. And you want to cut off all the excess really quickly because you don't want it pulling on the cake, so I use my scissors. And then another clean X-Acto blade, cutting really flush with that fondant that we paneled on the side. Making sure that you're making fluid movements with your X-Acto blade. And then for the curves, I had to go and get a smaller X-Acto blade because the larger one wasn't really making those turns very well. And then you want to cut out your little box and just feel for it. You want to make sure that your fondant is really flush with the box though, so push it towards the box if you cut it a little bit short. And that part's really important. So now we're going to cut out some of our accessories on the guitar. So this is going to be our pickups. So if you bought the pattern, then you'll have the sizing for the pickups. So just cut those out. I did 2 smaller ones and 2 bigger ones because I modified the neck to be a little bit smaller than it should be, just so our cake can serve more without being super long, because if I made it proportional, it'd be way too long. You have 2 smaller pickups and 2 larger pickups, and I'm just cutting those out of the same color that I cut the body out of, but it just depends on what color guitar that you're doing. So now I'm taking, I believe this is a size 5 piping tip, and just making little circle impressions, and we're going to paint those silver later. So now we're cutting out the part where the strings attach. And I'm doing those little dots again. And this is going to be our knobs on the guitar. So I'm using a 12 Wilton tip, and I'm using the back of it to cut out the knobs for the guitar, making sure that I have pretty thick gray fondant to cut these out with. These are going to be more like a darker silver color. I like to use the 12 tip because you can pop them out really easily. And for the tuning knobs, I'm using the same circle, but I'm going to pinch it a little bit so it has kind of a rectangle-y shape, a little bit smaller at one end than the other. I'm going to cut out 6 of those, and then I'm going to cut out some small dots, and these are going to be on top of our strings. It's what's going to kind of finish the string part of the guitar. So I need 12 of these, and they're going to be cut out of the same thickness. And then I need 6 more little circles, and we're going to press them kind of flat with our fingers, and you'll see we'll use these on the head later. So now I'm going to cut out my toothpicks. I want about half of the toothpick a little bit shorter for the tuning knobs, and then really short toothpicks for the string part. That's for the head, and then we're going to use full toothpicks for the ones that go into the cake. Now I'm using my pattern to mark where I'm going to put this bottom part. So I'm going to put two more of the pickups, and then I'm going to put that bottom piece below that afterwards because I want to paint the cake first. So I'm going to start airbrushing the cake. I would definitely recommend making your cake in the color your guitar is going to be, and then just airbrushing your highlights and your shadows. But I didn't have black fondant, so I went ahead and slowly airbrushed the whole thing black. Now I did a bunch of coats of this. I just let them dry a little bit in between. So I'm taking a piece of paper and I'm kind of diagonally putting it onto the cake as a barrier, and then I'm going to hit it with a little bit of silver, and this is to give it like a shine, and then I'm going to keep coating it in black and then hit it with silver down the center. Now I'm spraying all of my little knobs and extra pieces silver. I'm going to go ahead and put the knobs on, and you can see this is after a little bit of airbrushing, and then I'm just going to take my black airbrush and put some shadows on the neck, and I took a little bit darker brown and did a little wash over the neck, and then I'm taking those pieces that I pushed flat and putting those on the guitar. Make sure you're aware of where your strings are going to lay because you don't want your strings to overlap each other. And then I'm taking those really small toothpicks and putting them with a little bit of glue and then hammering them in. And then the little bit larger toothpicks matching up with those circles and putting them on the side and then gluing all of the tuning knobs on. And then I just paint all those little toothpicks silver. Now I'm going to be cutting out the frets. So this is kind of thick fondant that's gray, and then I'm going to cut out about 25 of these. And I want them to be a little bit longer than the neck, so just measure however big your neck is with the fondant on it and make them like a 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch bigger than that, because we want to cut them all really nice and straight together. So I'm just making it go from kind of a wider distance apart to a smaller, and then gluing them all on, and then cutting them with an X-Acto blade, and then painting them all silver. So here I'm just painting all those little extra parts silver, and then on the silver one painting those little dots black. Now I hit it with a little bit of glaze spray, and for some reason it turned it blue, but it looked really pretty, so I kept it. And now I'm just printing out a sticker from the band that the guitarist is in, and this is on edible paper. So what I didn't want the black bleeding through, so I did one layer of plain edible paper, put some edible glue on top, and then put my edible image. Now I did include a band sticker in my PDF that you can print out. That's not this band, it's just more generic, like happy birthday kind of thing. And then I put the logo of the guitar, and this is also included in the PDF, on the head of the guitar. And you just stick it on with some edible glue and make sure you cut out around it really nicely. And now I'm going to put some chocolate ganache where I want the base of the guitar, and I'm going to go ahead and stick my guitar on there. And then I'm going to put on the neck of the guitar. Now your neck is going to go inset into the cake. I actually had to take a groove out of the neck because it fit a little bit too high and I didn't like that. So yours is going to be more of the right size. So just be aware of that while you're building your cake, that the neck is going to sit a little bit inset. So now we're going to take our floss. You want to cut about 6 strings, about 30 inches or so you have some extra to tie with. And you're going to tie it onto your toothpick first. Then you're going to stick it into that base part, and then you're going to wrap it around nice and tight around the top part of the guitar on the neck, and then hot glue it to get it to stay. Now nobody's eating the neck because it's made out of wood, so it's okay to hot glue it down there. And then you're going to hit all these little toothpicks with some silver, and then finish them off with the little dots that we made. Paint those with a little bit of silver, and then your guitar is finished. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel where I'll be uploading new videos every week.